Hey, this is Matt. Welcome to Unbearable 73. Let's change live. Well, doing some live work here, guys. A little bit bigger, a little up there more. Okay, and we'll make it more feature prominent for you guys. See, and let me know how the slight adjustment to my format works. Right. So in this, and this should be a little. My settings changed all of a sudden. Anyway, right there. I go there. I go there. So, guys, welcome to my review of Monarch Season 1, Episode 8. And 8 times too much is apparently with this show. It's Unbearable 73. Let me give you my. So we'll get right into it. I'll give you my general thoughts. This is one of the worst episodes of the season. There's barely any Monarch or monsters in it. And yes, there are people in Monarch in it, right? But there's too much of the people who are in Monarch not doing Monarch things, right? And what I mean is they focus a lot on relationships, which isn't necessarily bad if they're relevant to Monarch or the kaiju, right? So, like for example, two characters falling in love and trying to while they work together in Monarch as they research the kaiju hunt them. That's a good story. Human having a sort of love triangle is a distraction, though it wouldn't be as much of a distraction if we didn't have the other human melodrama, which is even further removed from the story, right? Which, by the way, has been forgotten, right? I mean, apparently they're all okay now with their dads are polygamists, right? So, I'm not claiming these can't be done well in another type of show or another setting. I'm saying this show is basically about Monarch, the organization that tracks and tries to come up with a response to deal with the Titans and the other monsters, and the Hollow Earth and all that. Well, which are basically have theories for, but they haven't discovered quite yet. They're just discovering the Hollow Earth now. They're discovering the portals that there's something's down there right now. Okay, but no, we're not talking about that cool stuff, right? They're just. We constantly have these scenes with melodrama in them that has been just boring and no one cares, except the people writing this apparently. So, let's see. Again, it's well done like the previous episodes. The acting is okay to good in some cases. The and both Russells are the two best actors in this show, so by far, right? I mean, they're playing the same character, which probably makes it easy because of the effects in terms of some of the fights and the backgrounds and things like that are pretty cool. Again, there's no production issue with the show. There's clearly a lot of effort being put into the show that is well done, right? I like the opening theme song. I like the soundtrack. There's a lot to like about this show. But they just... I understand the kaiju are expensive special effects-wise, so you can't have kaiju fights every episode, right? But I'm not saying that the show should be just about that, although... I am saying that the part of Monarch which investigates the kaiju, explores theory, they spend virtually no time. Like they'll bring up like, well, they'll say like, well, after your grandma died, your grandpa went off into like kind of crazy little portals to the other world, and and then the conversation just disappears, right? Why not be having? And they come before that Lee and Randa especially espouse these ideas that there's something going on down below. Why not talk about those for this entire show? Have the characters exploring the research they're doing, and that Monarch is Monarch tries to counter that, so we can follow that storyline. That would be really cool, And then why not show more of Monarch at the installations? Doing more to have them travel to more Monarch installations looking for information so they can see the kaiju counter efforts going on, right? That would be kind of cool. But, get Admiral Stoic and Sarazawa into this. They should be in the show, okay? Even if it's just an occasional, 2-minute scene, they should be paid. They should cut down. They could have cut out, I mean, the Hacker Girl is there for the tie-in to Godzilla versus Kong, right? And so we have the tie-ins to the next two movies, basically, with the Hollow Earth and the monsters down below, and of course the cybernetics and Apex Industries and all that. So those are. This is planting. We know we get. Why aren't they having more of what Apex is doing to develop Mechagodzilla, right? Because clearly it started by now. Even right. So why aren't we seeing why isn't Monarch saying is there something going on here, or why is there a cover up of this? That's what this show should be about. But instead, at least 1/3 to 1/2 of it is just melodrama. Okay, so rant aside, I've been ranting for like 5 minutes. Let's go do a pass through the episode. Again, I like the opening credits, and you can't hear the song, but I'd have Ren Watanabe in here, get his dad in to play Serizawa. I like the opening theme. I like the tie-ins to the past. So we get some good. The best part of this, by the way, the best part of this series is the stuff in the past with the founding of Monarch. Okay, they did make a stupid decision because we know historically that after Bikini Atoll went off, after Castle Bravo, I should say, went off, they didn't stop for 2 years. Okay, we know that they were right, and because we know from the other canon, 2014, that all nuclear tests in the South Pacific, by the U.S. at least, were attempts to kill him. Right, so they should have ran with that and have Godzilla prove unkillable, which would be. They could flash you some more Godzilla for some special effects. Have more scenes of these guys following tests that says, saying, "Look, we can prove this ain't going to kill him. I mean, we think you might just be feeding him." And the military have them gain the respect of the military by being right. I mean, I'm okay with the way they solved the problem they created in the show by having Lee run off half cocked and lose control of the military aspect of Monarch. And then I'm okay because they had to do this to get it back, right? Okay, you bear with me on that. Basically, they lied and framed him as if he knew Godzilla was still alive and didn't tell anyone. I'm okay with them doing that to get the plot back on track. I think it's stupid, and they should have had a much better show where more scenes in the past where they're going around and every time they're trying to nuke Godzilla, they're like, oh, and there's exorbitant radiation being absorbed, and they're showing you that Godzilla isn't even being moved in the water by these 5 or 10 megaton nuclear explosions. And eventually, at the end of this season, they could have presented findings and say, look, and this is, by the way, real calculation, okay? When 2014 came out, me and a bunch of friends I remembered more physics back then, and one of them was actually working on towards his PhD in physics back then, and a couple other engineers and all analysts. You would need something like, so Castle Bravo was, if I recall correctly, a 12 megaton nuclear explosion. Real world, we expected it to be like 5, but it wound up being 12, right? They miscalculated. And if you watch the depiction, Godzilla was swimming when it hit him. He was in the fireball. He didn't even move. It didn't even move him in the water. Meaning he could swim. He could swim against the overpressure of a 12 megaton nuclear explosion, right? And he was in the fireball, and it didn't even hurt him. Okay, which we know from the backstory was true because Godzilla, like the original backstory, which they're probably changing now, is that, and there's a precursor comic, was that Godzilla himself is like 300 million years old. He was alive during the Permian era, I think it was, when on this Earth there was higher radiation, and he survived the Permian mass extinction by basically being dropped. He literally got hit by the asteroid that hit the Earth and caused it, and plunged into the mantle. And he swam around the mantle for a long time before he resurfaced. And then all these other titans have come on since then, and Godzilla's strength and superiority is from being so old, right? So that was the original premise of this. And they could have played with that sort of notion and showed up and had them showing the Monarch the military say, look, we've been analyzing your data. We've been telling you it's stupid to be attacking Godzilla, but you won't believe us that he has some sort of positive purpose and we can live with him. Well, let me give you a more practical thing, okay? Here's the math. You would need close to a 1,000 megaton, meaning a gigaton, to even possibly move him in the water or harm him based on just the proof from your own bombs. Okay? And furthermore, we've noticed he's grown in size by at least 5 meters since you've been hitting him. So you're feeding him and keeping him on the surface with this radiation that's not normally in the atmosphere. Stop nuking him. He'll go down to the bottom of the ocean, maybe in the deep mantle trenches where there's radiation seeping out, or in near volcanoes or something. And we'll probably won't hear from him unless in our idea, another monster attacks and he comes out to take him down, right? And that could have led nicely into G2019 and some theories behind whether Godzilla is a friend or foe and all that sort of stuff, you know. We, that would have been the past. That would have been cool. But instead, you get what we get here. So this is them presenting. This is Captain Moron here, who's basically he wants to turn Monarch into instead of a anti-kaiju organization, he wants to advance his career by turning into an anti-communist organization and research communists or something. And he begins to make some slides against Keiko's background. Not Keiko. Is it Keiko? Yeah. Her background, and saying there's some hidden nonsense there, which we find out is, and that she's, and then of course they pour in some racism. I mean, despite the fact this guy probably was working in Japan for years. Well, maybe he wasn't. I mean, but I know people don't want to hear this, but racism in the U.S. military became to become less and less tolerated starting in like the 1940s. Not so much because of the amount of soldiers, but because the military became a very professional military that thought that anything that made you less efficient, like racist attitude or whatever, like your job as a soldier was to break things and kill people. As a leader of men, you had to make them more efficient. And there was still people who were racist, and there was still some policies, but the military becoming very overtaken by their professionalism towards soldiery around this time in the U.S. The U.S. military was like the first egalitarian grouping, probably by the mid '60s. So anyway, but given the time period, the racial angle he plays could be a valid one if they do it a little better, right? But instead, he's besmirching her as a possible communist, despite the fact he comes from a country that the communists tried to conquer and mass exterminate. That's the stupid part. So we get forward and find, this is the Monarch headquarters in the modern day, where they have all these boxes and whatever. You would think by this time period, I know in healthcare IT, by this year in healthcare IT, which was about 2016 or so, we had begun mass digitization of stuff and forcibly putting all the old records into storage. So you would think that this stuff would be digitized and they could just put it into a warehouse somewhere. It seems kind of stupid to make Monarch look a little, I don't know. So you get to the good Monarch base and you see all the activity in the beginning, the precursor to where the kaiju or the Titans are located in 2019. Okay, that's kind of interesting. They're saying the father had some special insight that maybe the kids have. Blah blah blah. Okay, Then we get again the enigmatic no explanation of what he's doing. He just goes and does it until near the end we get an explanation for it. So now they have to come. They're about to lose Monarch and be kicked out. So he wants them to put their knowledge together and come up with an actual plan to present to the general so they can get it back. Which is okay, fine. Again, I'm okay with how they did that they had to do that. I just think they could have a way better story that they could have, So this is they're going through all the old papers trying to find out where Shaw is going, and this is pretty nifty. They're saying that Shaw is old school. He's not all this logic and data driven. He's based on his human connections, which is true to an extent. He's still logically driven, but he's focused on, I would say, the older. I don't know. I mean, I'm okay with the way they did it. I think they could have worded a little better, So going through the old paperwork and see if they could kind of predict Lee Shaw's actions by what old messes he wanted to clean up. I guess the way to put it. So she finds some. She's gonna find out, some critical piece of information. Apples and feel something. What was the first thing we saw with Shaw? Then the kids are going in, and we get the map that I show you, which to me should have been the most important thing. Talking about spending more time on locating the kaiju, the Titans, should be than this. So this part I'm okay with them coworkers falling in love, but then they have Lee Shaw here becoming saying, oh, okay, I'm going to give it up because they're falling in love. I'm going to be the self-sacrificing type or whatever. Again, the banter with the older guy, Monster Nerds, that's cool. I like the setting here they're using for, I want to say, is this Chernobyl? I spent some time in here. They lingered a little too long getting to this point, but I'm okay with it. So then, obviously, the rogue Monarch agents stop them. They don't have a conversation about, well, you're setting all the other points off or whatever. That he discovered he had to come up with a plan because the ant digs through the hole, so it inspired the Hollow Earth idea. So here we get now. This is again where I kind of lost it with this episode. So now, if I understand correctly, Yoshiro, whatever the kid's father's name is, I want to say it's Yoshiro, but I'm pretty sure that's wrong. Apparently, he's not Randa's actual, he's biological. He's his stepson. So now that we have melodrama and a possible mystery father out there who's dead, so is he going to turn out to be like the Japanese emperor? I mean, what are we doing here? Why do we even need to introduce this element? Okay, why can't they get married, have the kid, and be simple about it? Why? Why can't her mysterious background thing that the other guy alluded to be that she was forced to work for the Japanese military as a scientist for a while or something interesting and something you could debate over? Did she have to do it? And you can remember the fact that yes, she had to because civilians didn't comply with the Japanese military. They were executed. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This excessive, stupid melodrama that is just being, but they have to be sitting around the writer going, "This will be so cool if he's a stepson and we have a dead dad and a mysterious past we can exploit in the future." No, it's not so cool because that's time wasted spending away from Monarch and the monsters. And Woe Is Me, because we just got into the Woe Is Me storyline, blah blah blah. Finally, we get Shaw talking to the daughter, and who, and there's no like someone should be explaining to him that what he's doing is making other openings more active and more gamma rays. Does it even get mentioned? Like he's saying, she tells him this, and then he's saying that this is stupid. He's saying that they're cherry picking the data so they can justify sitting on their hands, but he's ignoring the fact that he's making the problem worse that they're observing. They're making him look stupid at this point. And then we get the whole setup. This is again what he does here. Again, I'm okay with it because it was needed to undo the damage to the story they did by having Lee run off half-cocked and lose control of Monarch. So what they do is they sort of sabotage the new guy by implying or indicating passively, I should say, however you want to define it, that he knew Godzilla was alive and didn't tell anyone. And Lee says, "I'm submitting a proper report that will show he didn't tell you this," and blah blah blah, and and so that'll probably get Lee control that. They'll probably get some Monarch back focus on what it should be. Now I hope they show this presentation in the next episode because that would have been cool. Okay. But instead, they had to waste 5 to 10 minutes of the episode with like it had showing you the ethical debate about and the practical debate between the government leaders. That would have been cool. Instead, we had about 10 or 15 minutes of melodrama to occupy our time. So this is where Keiko died, and I'm betting the $1 that Keiko is going to be alive down in the hole. And boom, a couple of them get sucked into the Hollow Earth, and they'll somehow survive the trip, despite the fact that they needed those ships in the previous through. They need those ships with force fields to survive the trip through. Okay, yet somehow they'll survive that trip, right? So how does that make any sense? They don't spend any time giving you a possible explanation for that, because they have to waste so much time with melodrama. I hope the next episode shows the flashback to the actual debate they had. I really hope that it does that. We know they're probably not going to do it. They'll probably open with a flashback to when the father was engaging in polygamous marital relations with the two mothers or whatever. I don't know. I mean, this show is I'm probably not going to do a season 2. If they go to a season 2 with this show, I just, not because it's horribly bad, but it has potential to be really, really good. And I guess, but they blew it. And I guess that's the look. You guys can see my mad scientist eyebrow getting kicked off by this. It's kind of funny. Yeah, it's kind of this is just disappointing. So my name is Matt. It's been a Rebel 73 review of Monarch Season 1, Episode 8. And have a happy New Year, and I am out of here.